The rhythm of healing, the Octavesmethod. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore. Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at a play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise, where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make. In strength and in stillness, our bodies awake. S is for socialize, where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The Octavesmethod, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 5 of the Trauma and Social Work Podcast. I am KJ Alexander here with my co-host, Tonya Octave, and today we have a lot of important information to dive into. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and let Tonya tell a little bit more about herself and what this podcast is about.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tonya Octave, and we are going into Season 5 of Trauma and Social Work Podcasts, where we will be discussing and diving deep into my book called Heal the Mind, 7 Strategies Towards Mental Wellness, Happiness, and Success, Exploring Trauma, Mental Wellness, and Ways to Live a More Balanced Life. And before we begin, just a simple reminder that this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended for medical, psychological, mental health, or legal advice. Although I'm a licensed professional, this is not a formal type of treatment. We may talk about things like hypnosis and meditation and things that we would do in a therapeutic, from a therapeutic perspective, but it's not a form of treatment. For individual questions about your wellness, your happiness, and your success, please seek out a professional. And if you are experiencing a mental health crisis, do call 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.
Great, awesome. That was amazing. So with that being said, I want to make sure I tell the audience, if you haven't already, follow this page on Spotify, YouTube, and any other platforms we post episodes on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming episodes in the future. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So you go on into book to kind of talk about therapy animals, and we kind of talked about this earlier in the episode, but you say how a therapy dog can be an emotional support animal to the owner, but an emotional support animal is not necessarily a therapy animal. Mm-hmm. And, you go on to give some specific examples. And, I think that people should figure out which one is right for them based on
And you can
their
do both.
individual circumstance, and you
You can
can
do
do
both.
both.
You can
Okay.
have an emotional support animal at home. Um, and essentially, we call it an emotional support animal because maybe you want to bring that animal somewhere with you. You may want to travel, so you need to get a letter from a licensed clinician so that the licensed clinician, all of them have their own way of writing those letters. And like I have a procedure for doing that as well. And then maybe you want to take them, like you needed to go to the grocery store. It's usually you have an emotional support animal because some other entity, you've moved into an apartment and you want to keep your pet with you because it helps you keep you calm so that you're not always so anxious. Then you have to get a letter. And so really that is the reason for an emotional support animal. But then let's say as you continue to work on your anxiety and you're working to decrease those symptoms, you go to a therapist, you work with a trained professional. And in that setting, that trained professional has a therapy animal that they bring in to work on particular treatment goals that you may have. There have been times where I've had adult two adult men come into my practice and they had some anxiety around dogs particular, and so I brought Mona in at a distance to work with them, and gradually they began to have some comfort, which freed them up for some other things. One other, whether or not you're dating someone who has a pet, and then now you have some comfort, whatever the situation is, so that it allows them. So there's options, and you can have both. The therapy animal stays with the owner. The emotional support animal stays with the individual.
Mm, okay. Yeah, I see you made an important distinction there.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So you go on to list the benefits of therapy, of a therapy dog specifically. Um, and I noticed there are some overlapping similarities between the benefits of emotional support animals and therapy animals. Um, I was just wondering, do you think that there's any benefits that are specific to therapy dogs or therapy animals that may not necessarily apply to emotional support animals?
They're trained to do
This the
certain
training
things.
aspect. Okay.
And so I'll talk like I will tell people all the time, my dog really talks English because that's the language I speak because she tells
Yeah.
me all the time. Now, Mona is a husky, and huskies are probably the most known dog to be returned back to a pet store or to be given away because of some of their behaviors. They typically are high energy dogs, so they can do a lot of destruction. They have an abundance of fur because they have two coats, and that can be a little like, woo, excessive. It's like snowing at times. And also
Yeah.
because they talk, they can be very loud. And so their behaviors sometimes aren't always compatible for families, especially if you're in apartments where noise you have to contain. So I always say a tired husky is a happy owner. So you have to be very active with that breed, and then they're like out the whole time. Now, Mona's, I will say, is very different. She is the laziest husky, and she does not speak at all. So
Mm.
she's more into a meditative like state. She will go into
Okay.
meditation like 20 hours a day and will walk for maybe 4. She does like some hunting and some other kind of sports and things like that she
Okay.
does to keep her to resolve the energy issue. But it doesn't take a lot. So for her, she tells me exactly telepathically. She tells me when she's hungry. She tells me when she wants something more. She tells
Oh,
me when she
really?
wants to go outside. She tells me when she needs love and when she needs space. She tells me when she's uncomfortable being around someone else. She'll tell me in her body language. The reverse is the same. She knows when I might be a little bit more energetic, then she becomes a little bit more playful. She knows when I'm anxious, she might, or irritated, she'll go in the other room. She knows, and then she'll come to the corner of the room just to see whether or not she should come in or stay out of the room for a couple of more seconds. So there is the part of the therapy dog is the connection between the animal and the trainer, and that bonding, because it is beyond the verbal communication. It's also the nonverbal communication. So how I think about that also in a parallel process is if she's not in the same room, or I see her checking to see whether or not she should come in, that's an indication to me that I need to monitor my anxiety. Because what message am I giving out? Is it too intense? Because if it's too intense, that's her behavior. That's a message for me that maybe I need to calm down a little bit more.
Mm,
And
I
so
see.
your animals, and this even works for emotional support animals, because it really is just your pet that you have at home, like your family pet. They're monitoring your behavior. They're telling you when they don't like something. That might be through their bark. That might be through a demeanor, a physical stance that they take, because they're like, hold on, like they might become a little bit more protective. You might also notice that if someone comes into the house, how that pet is responding in that situation. If there's an argument going on in the house between adults or between the parents and the kids, the pets may go hide somewhere. That may be, maybe things are too intense and it's trauma occurring. Because just like humans, pets also have symptom presentation like depression,
Mm.
anxiety.
Oh,
They
really?
also experience trauma too. So it's also, we can make a informed guess that
Okay.
if there's domestic violence in the house and there's little babies who are absorbing that and they are developing struggles with attachment, so maybe they have more of an avoidant attachment starts to develop, and that's demonstrated in their behavior by playing alone, not really paying attention to what's going on, maybe some disassociation with that infant. That animal could be doing the same thing, and they could
Mm.
also be absorbing and having an avoidant attachment. So just like humans, pets also are and can be struggling with the same symptom presentation. And so we should take that into
Okay.
consideration, because we may not see it in our kids as much, but sometimes pets, we have a different place in our heart, that when our cat may hover and go into a scared stance, because we see that nonverbal clearer than we do with the baby who maybe became quiet and silent and has learned not to cry anymore because their cries were never heard.
Yeah.
That may be a notice for us to say, oh, maybe I do need to work on me. Maybe there is something going on. So your pet is going to tell you what is going on non-verbally, because they're going to read your non-verbal communication. They don't have the ego to say or to decipher or to make an interpretation about it. They don't have defenses. They show up how it is. Think about it. If they're hungry, they're hungry. If they're scared, they're scared. If they're
Yeah.
tired, they're tired. How many times you walk your dog and they're like, look, I am not walking no more. I'm just going to sit on this ground and you going to pick me up and we're not going nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And that kind of sparked a question I wanted to ask. So, kind of just playing the scenario of, let's say you do get an emotional support animal or a therapy animal, and let's just say you're not compatible. Maybe you got a certain breed that's hyperactive and you don't really think that is going to work out. How can someone go about maybe rehoming these animals to make sure they still have a loving, careful home?
Some of the things that I've seen people do is put social media posts on or go to particular websites that help you rehoming animals. So I may go to a husky rescue website, or
Okay.
contact a rescue, a dog rescue, and then see about like this isn't a good fit and describe the personality. And that way there's a, that's how people look for pets, is they look for, personalities and see whether or not that will be a good fit. So I've seen people do that in terms of rehoming. Sometimes they don't know what else to do, so they'll bring them to like a humane society or a vet hospital and kind of say like, I can't keep this pet anymore. Sometimes they abandon pets. That happens more frequently than not. That's not the ideal, because I don't know, I wouldn't want to be abandoned. I would want to be, at least try to find a good home for me that may
Yeah.
match more with my personality. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great that we add
Can
that
I
into.
add something
Yeah,
with that?
absolutely.
A part of you wanting a pet is a desire for something.
Okay.
I feel lonely, so let me get a pet who's going to nurture me. And then you get the husky, and the husky is active and loud and destructive, and you feel like you've tried everything. And you're like, I just can't take it anymore. I'm wondering if you can use that as a tool to find out what you need to work on. So I'm not necessarily saying don't rehome the dog, because I don't want the dog to be, or the cat to be in an abusive situation, because it can get abusive. I
Yeah.
saw just and heard of so many just awful stories that happen when people can't keep pets for whatever reason. But it could be an opportunity for growth. So, for an example, like a husky, if the husky is destroying things at home, you don't get mad at the husky. You reflect on what you can do differently. Example, when Mona was a puppy, I usually walk her every morning. On this particular
Mhm.
morning, we didn't walk because I was rushing to go to work. And I went to work and I came home and she ate my couch.
Oh, wow.
And I said,
Huh.
oh, shame on me. I'm sorry, Mona. I didn't get you what you needed before I left was to get all that energy out. I know next time, because now I got to get rid of the couch and I got
Yeah.
to buy a new couch because there was no covering up this one.
Yeah.
But I didn't get mad. I got informed that maybe I need to be more prepared. And I use that to say we sometimes use emotions and we project onto an animal when an animal is simply being who they are. And we're not using that as a mirror to reflect back on us.
Hmm.
So when your cat is waking you up and scratching you in the middle of the night and you're like kind of getting annoyed because it's like 3 o'clock and you don't want to keep work, what could you do differently, creatively, to understand the behavior and the need of the cat
Mm.
versus just getting mad or throwing the cat off the bed or declawing the cat, whatever it is? Like, what could you do differently? Because all it is behavior. It is something that is arising in you that is trying to inform you because of an emotion of something that you think this other animal did, but you're
Yeah.
not being reflective on what's going on for you. So how do you grow from it? So I do think having pets can help you grow if you're willing to grow in that way, because they'll get you there. I'm sure you've had experiences with dogs and cats that you've come across, and maybe you've had anger come up. And a part of that anger was
Yeah.
you felt it was something the pet did. But maybe the second thought should be like, well, what's going on with me?
Mm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of times people like to, you know, kind of get too harsh on their pets because of their activities or their behavior. But
They can take their emotions out. because
Yeah,
they are
exactly.
more vulnerable. What does that say about the human being who takes emotions out on a pet? Because they know that pets are vulnerable, animals are vulnerable, especially
Yeah,
domesticated
absolutely.
animals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we should take more care with how we treat animals, especially in the training process, because a lot of times, especially with dogs, they just need some strict training, especially in the early years. That way, when they get a little bit older, they have a little bit more discipline and they're able to follow commands a lot easier in that sense. So,
Mhm.
so we're basically about to wrap up this chapter of the book. But before we get into the next chapter, which is nutrition health, which would be a great discussion to get into, we do have some kind of reflections of this chapter. So, and a few takeaways as well. So, I wanted to go ahead and read the takeaways. So, learn the difference and practice being childlike and not childish. A challenge I challenge you to find the deep part of you that laughs, spreads joy, and brushes things off. Heal and forgive the inner child within. Play is not only crucial for children, but also for adults. Be flexible and open to new opportunities, and you may surprise yourself and build confidence. Rediscovering nature and connecting with animals can benefit your emotional wellness. Animals provide this nonverbal means of supporting emotional attachments, especially if one struggles with early childhood traumas and attachment challenges.
And we didn't talk about how it can improve your attachment. In the prior episodes, we talked about attachment and secure attachment and avoided attachment, things like that. But how can a pet move you from whatever that attachment style is to move you towards a secure attachment? It can happen. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that would be one of the goals of this is to, create a bond between human and animal that is beneficial for both the person and the animal. And hopefully there's a semi, or excuse me, hopefully there's a beneficial relationship in that sense. And just some of the self-reflections of this chapter, I think the a few that stuck out to me the most was that if you have a pet, what are some activities you can do with your pet that improve your mental health and your pet's health? And I think that's important to put the and there because although we do care about the health of humans, absolutely, we also absolutely care about the health of pets as well. And I think that should be kept in consideration as well. And also, what are you willing to do outside your everyday activities? Go to a bird show or learn to bird watch. Go to the zoo and watch the behavior of animals. Learn to skate, cycle, or run with your pet. Spend time at a cat cafe. Learn to draw learn to draw and imitate a dolphin.
Hmm.
Volunteer at an equestrian center. And I think that was a great self-reflection to add because it encourages people to step out of their comfort zone, especially with these animals, and do things that they may not normally do in order to expose themselves to broader horizons. And before we
So I
close,
can share. I can share something
okay.
that I did. I went to a lion habitat, and so all they
Oh,
have is
really?
lions and a few birds and
Oh, wow.
ostriches,
Okay.
and it wasn't crowded, so I got to spend more time. And
Okay.
I'm maybe about 2 feet with two kind of gates in front of me. I've never been so close to a lion, a male lion, so with the big hair and stuff like that. And
Okay.
I sit down and I'm directly in front of the lion with the two gates. And my heart isn't beating fast. And I'm kind of like, oh, trying to take a picture and talk. I mean, even
Yeah.
did some chanting or something. And although the lion is looking at me, there's no eye contact. It seems like he's like looking through me. Never been this close. And
Hmm.
then he growls or roars. "Arr!" I don't know what happened, but I fell down. I got scared. My heart started to beat fast. I was like, I have never heard that sound vibrated through my entire body.
Hmm.
So I could watch Lion King and I could watch like cartoons with lions and lions on TV and stuff, but to be there and feel that vibration in my body, how powerful that experience was. I was like, whoa. I'm so glad those gates were there. And if he would have moved, I probably would have ran. He just growled, sitting all calmly, looking through me, no acknowledgement whatsoever. But I'm just saying, like, how powerful that was. And so, like, even going, I'm always good in terms of watching behavior, because I think you can learn language of humans by watching their behavior. The same applies to watching animals. You can learn their behaviors. You learn their hunting patterns. You can learn what they're trying to say and what they're communicating. And the good thing is, like I said, they don't have the ego, so you get to learn a lot more from them because they're very clear in what they want. But boy, when that happened, I fell down. My heart was beating. My body was shaking. I was like, whoa, that was a vibrational experience. So I encourage people to go out there, be playful with animals in safe ways, not to harm animals, but we can learn a lot from them. They're here. We are cohabitating and co-living with them, whether or not they're encaged or whether or not they're living in the wild. But they're just magnificent creatures out there.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So I think that's a good place to leave it for now, and we will continue this discussion on our next episode. But I want to encourage everyone, if you haven't already, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any episodes coming out in the future. And before we close out, was there any information you wanted to share with the audience?
No, I'm looking forward to our next discussions on Victuals. I'll be bringing in some food and showing some meals. So some more great stuff just to come, as a way to think about how you want to heal the mind, body, and spirit in this integrative fashion, and that you are truly the healer of yourself. All we all have to do is get the mind out of the way so that we can move towards a healing path and not an illness and a disease state path.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree anymore. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in once again. That is all the time we have for today. Until next time, be safe and bye-bye.
Wraps up another episode. I hope today's discussion provided clarity and tools you can use in your daily life. If you're ready to take the next step in the healing journey, I'd love to connect. Head over to my website to schedule a free 15-minute consultation. It is a great opportunity to ask questions and see how we can work together. And while you're there, download my complimentary workbook, designed to help you reflect, grow, and move towards mental wellness, happiness, and success. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time. The rhythm of healing, the Octavesmethod. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore. Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for Victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise, where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make. In strength and in stillness, our bodies awake. S is for socialize, where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The Octaves method, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.